So that's a great question and one that we ask ourselves all the time. For us at Cisco, for us, we try to look at it from a broader perspective from Cisco around, there's many facets to our organisation that our female leaders work towards. So whether that be for myself, I'm in the sales sector, but there's many other areas that may be thought of outside of, not necessarily just roles in tech. We obviously always are encouraging our females to head into the engineering area. For us, that's still a sector that we want to develop for our female leaders most definitely. So we work through multiple areas, both in higher education and particularly at the universities in our mentoring program. So we work in higher education, we have a program called Rock IT, which we're really working with those students around more so on the engineering front and making it fun for them so that we don't lose them in those younger years around kind of grade 7 is when we generally might lose some of our female into the tech side of it. So at that point in time, it's really around making it exciting and interesting for those females. But as far as the university side of it goes, we've taken a broader approach in that perspective. So it's really around, showcasing what tech actually looks like, and it may not necessarily lead to an engineering career. It might be project management. It might be even, for us, marketing is a really big facet for us. But a lot of our graduates, interesting enough, even in the Brisbane office, I work with some of the interns here. They come from a business degree, so they've come to us with a business and marketing degree, and then from there they may decide even to head into the engineering perspective. So we encourage all facets in there. So.
Yeah, and sorry, I will say. We in the university sector really appreciate the relationships we can build with companies like Cisco that really help to showcase to the students what the future could look like, because they don't always know. I think I wrote my first paper about women in IT about 20 years ago, and I've just finished a report with some research partners in the Victorian area looking at what we do with the interventions for schoolgirls. We have Big Day Out, we have coding for girls, we have all these interventions. We identified 45 of them, and then we looked at first year university students and said, did you study IT at school, and did you take any of these interventions? And the answer was yes, they did. But we still only have roughly 18% females entering IT. So after 20 years, we haven't improved anything, totally failed. Got to start again, because the number of women doing IT degrees is reflected in the number of women in the IT industry. It's a very, very close correlation there. So I've been thinking with my research colleagues, let's throw everything out and start again. Let's not sell IT degrees, let's sell something else. So I was talking to AJ earlier about why don't we have IT for social good. We know that schoolgirls are altruistic. Emphasise the social good. You can save the world with IT. That will bring them. We recently, in my previous university, we recently opened up an IT scholarship degree that we've been running for several years and made it a joint degree with accounting. So the IT degree, which is fully funded by industry, all the students get scholarships, 40 students a year. In a good year, we get 5 girls. When we opened up the accounting degree with information systems as part of the accounting degree, we took in 30 students and 15 of them were girls. So by putting the accounting on there, it's not they can't do IT, it's they don't want to do IT. So let's wrap it up in something else. Let's start at the school level, take it into the university level, and then take it to industry. Because if you've done an IT degree for the social sector, you can damn sure they'll be good at IT for any sector. I will know how to save money too, to be honest with you. So I think that we need to be a lot more exciting about what we do. And I would put a plug in here for universities, because we can't do it without you.
I think changing the conversation is absolutely critical. Exactly what you're talking about, we need to get the girls at a younger age. Women in IT has flatlined at about 20% over the last 11 years. I looked up reports before we did this today just to be sure. Yep, no change of any kind. It's almost a directly flatline. I had a look at the women coming into the IT program at my own school where I teach. The numbers range between about a low of 16% and a high of 22, but they don't stay. Even if we can get them in the first year, second and third year they start to drop off, and your retention rates drop to 13%, 16%. So even if we can get them into IT, they're not staying there. Why? Why aren't they staying there? And I think a lot of it comes down to that conversation, the preconceptions of what a career in IT looks like. When I go out to girls' schools and I talk to all girls' schools and I say to the girls, okay, how many of you think that a career in IT is this? And 90% of the hands go up. That's what they perceive a career in our industry as being. You are stuck behind a computer, you talk to nobody at all, you don't move, you code. So many preconceptions which just don't reflect what a modern career in IT actually looks like. So can we change that conversation? And I think an important part of that is getting the industry connections, not just with the university sector where you are absolutely critical, but out to the schools. At home, fathers are more likely to talk about any of the STEM topics with their sons than they are to talk about it with their daughters. I'm proud to say that's not the case in our house. My daughter is an engineer, but even she's not looking at a career in the STEM sector. She's looking at occupational therapy. Fantastic, we need more of them too. But not looking at IT as an option, because the perception is that IT is not where she fits. It's not the image that she sees herself as. She does see herself though as somebody who helps. So that whole thing about making a difference and creating change, I think that's where we need to shift the conversation. It's not just about the technical skills, it's about the ability to work with people. And I think that gets lost.
I completely agree, Leigh. And I'm coming from a recruitment perspective, so I think I do think it all starts from education, and it does start from early age, changing perceptions. So, but okay, I'll leave that sort of dialogue to you guys. But from a recruitment perspective, long gone are the days where people are just expecting people to be behind a computer with their that stereotypical headphones in, not talking to people. They're automating a lot of things where ultimately the personality, soft skills are now so important. They may have been previously as well, but even more so now, so important. So I think that perception does need to change, and I think there's a lot of work to do, as you mentioned. But from a recruitment perspective, I think where we see the opportunities, and I guess the overall question, how to get more women into IT. One area I guess we do see it, and I think it has an opportunity to evolve as well, is with sort of transferable skill sets. So once people are obviously in their careers, they're well down the path of they've got their skills, they've worked through their journey within a company, for example. There's opportunities still to work into IT as well. Where there are a lot of non-technical IT roles as well. There's a broad gamut of roles that there were 10 years ago. So we're seeing a lot of transition of people with skill sets such as change. Everyone's working through how they change within their organisation. Organisational change is really revolved around technology these days. And we're seeing a lot of transition from people within the HR sector to that sort of sector as well. And I think that continues to be needed to be promoted to show that there are opportunities to move and move sideways into the IT field with pre-existing skill sets. Obviously, HR probably a lot more diverse in terms of gender than technology, so obviously there's an area to really help people move across once they are already ingrained within the workforce. Similar things with security. By 2026, they're expecting 80,000 vacancies just because it's growing so quickly. It hasn't been a focus for a long time over the last 5 years. Really, we're seeing the opportunity for roles there. So, a lot of that's around governance and compliance and risk, and has a large policy element as well. So there's areas where people can move quite easily from a policy background into there to work their way into the IT field as well.
Thank you. Look, I just think that there's going to be a lot of all those aspects that need to be addressed. So a lot of career change. I think that having that conversation around that IT is a good second career for a lot of people. So that if people have gone into another role early in their career and they're looking for a change later in their career, I think it's a really good one for us to focus on, because some of the skill sets that they can bring into that IT field that are invaluable. I mean, if they've been in a health career and then they transition across to IT, that makes it very employable for people in a health IT role. So there's a lot of that career change aspect that really needs to be addressed. Certainly the early getting interest sort of in school into the university space is certainly one of the most important aspects that we have to really focus on. But I guess that the fact that it hasn't changed much in 20 years is something that we need to consider. Well, again, Rosemary is rethinking it from the start. How do we? Everything we've done so far hasn't worked. So what do we need to do now to change that going forward? Because we need different views in our roles, and we do get very one-eyed sometimes. And if we don't have that diversity in the workforce, we're not seeing all the opportunities that we would otherwise see. So, Leigh and I were talking before, and one of the questions that we kind of thought, why do we need more women in IT? And I think you could probably answer that, and you should.
Why do we need more women in IT? I actually had a young girl at school ask me exactly that question when I went in to talk to them. And it kind of set me back for a minute, because I went, but isn't it obvious? And no, it wasn't. And this is one of the things we have to get past too. If you have a group of people who are developing the technology, which is underpinning all of business, not to mention societal aspects, you have a single point of view, a homogenous background, what you're going to get is technology that serves their purposes. You're not going to get technology which is going to suit a diverse set of needs. So we need more women in IT, we need more diversity in IT. I could tell you horror stories, and I'm not going to, because that's not what we're here for. But getting that diversity of opinion is how you're going to have technology which is going to suit the broadest number of people in business, in society, generally.
I think the other thing that is quite apparent is when we talk about IT is that most of what we do, because we do IT services for business, it's not about the tech, it's about the people we're supporting. So our staff have to talk to people all the time. That's what they do, and they're helping people. So that idea of helping people, if that's a motivation for a young girl, they like the idea of helping people. IT is a helping people role. It's not a things role. It's a people role. So being able to change that conversation and changing that perception away from the fact that it's perceived that it's all about the tin, but it's not. It's all about the people that we're actually supporting. And when you start talking about some of those other roles, like cybersecurity roles, and certainly around those support roles and project management and things, they're all people roles. That's what they're for. And I think if we all are talking like that, that incremental change will actually come about over time. We focus very heavily internally on how can we bring more people through, more women through into our field. So 5 years ago, we had no female techs in the organisation at all. Today we've got 4. Now, we'd like to see that more, but that journey has to be developed over time. And I think that's where we need to start talking about the motivation. So I've got a question for you, Emma, is what is the motivation? What motivated you to want to work in IT?
That's a very interesting story there, Mark. So for me, the world was very different 20 odd years ago. So internet wasn't even a thing, and for me, it was about starting my career in the workforce, right? So back then, university wasn't a piece that I wanted to enter, and I wanted to get into the workforce, earn some money, buy a house. I was all about that. But luckily for me, I fell into what is now the IT industry and tech. So I started at a computer company back in the day, in the 1990s, before Microsoft Windows was even around. I remember going to a Brisbane launch here, launching Microsoft Windows, and it was amazing. It was like this big hoo-ha in Brisbane. Full. The Sheraton Hotel here was absolutely full of every IT person known to man. And I thought to myself, wow, I've fallen on my feet. And from there on in, the industry has just grown, and the piece that I love about it is the constant learning. So you're always having to keep up to speed with the latest technology, what's coming. There's always disruption happening. You've always got to shift your thought leadership side of it. How you can diversify in your business. So if I even look at Cisco as an entity, we have shifted, in the last 20 years from being a network organisation to moving towards, that whole software side of it as a service model, which is a totally different train of thought, moving businesses into that digital transformation, helping solve problems, to your point. So it's all really critical, and it's the reason why I've stayed in the industry. I absolutely love it. So. And it is about problem solving.
And certainly, IT is a good industry for, certainly there's a lot of salary progression, there's a lot of career progression, so it's really changing some of those core fundamental ideas around why someone chooses a career in the first place. Which actually I have a question for you, Rosemary, is you said you're going to re-look at, like right from the start, what is that motivation? How do you change, or is it changing their motivation, or is it just tapping into a different motivation?
A really interesting question, and it goes all the way back to how we bring up girls and how we bring up boys. There was a study many years ago at Cybersecurity University where they interviewed year 12 students, and they said to the girls, "Why are you not studying IT?" And they said, "Oh, I want to be a nurse because studying IT is all about tapping keys." And they said to the boys, "Why are you doing IT and not something else?" And they said, "Because you don't have to talk to people if you do IT." That's at school. So we've got to change the schools. We've all got to be role models to the children growing up. We have to change the way schools are run. I had a panel of career teachers in school and asking them how we could help with the IT. And one of them said, "We had a fabulous IT program in my school, but we've got a new principal and he doesn't believe in IT." And I just think, you should fire him. I mean, I'm sorry, but IT is not religion. So we have to start very, very early. I always used to joke, we need a television program like Ally McBeal, but for IT. Because what Ally McBeal did to the law industry was phenomenal. We need an Ally McBeal program for women in IT. But joking aside, we all have a role to play in talking to girls. You can't be what you can't see. So get those girls talking about IT, but putting it in a context that they understand. And putting it in a people context that they understand. It's not about tapping people, it's about people. And that's what they're missing.
But we've got the IT crowd. Because that show gets so much for the perception of IT. It's not true. We've got Big Bang Theory, yes. we've got to get away from the whole boys subjects, girls subjects thing. Even in the single gender schools, you've still got the subjects which are perceived as being the boys subjects and the girls subjects. Does that mean rebranding them and pitching them more towards what you're talking about this is a course where you can actually make a difference? Leaning in on the creative aspect of IT. We're in an incredibly creative profession, but we don't pitch ourselves that way.
We're just going to open up now to questions from the floor.
Before we do, can we just get a quick round of applause for our expert panel?
Hi, so I work in a branding background, and just quickly, I did a Google search on IT stories, and currently mainstream media, last 20 articles, 17 of them have male photos. Cisco, I've looked at your Instagram, it's great, a lot of female representation there, but is it not also just about talking about people, about what's inside the industry, but what you're portraying out there to the general public? Because if you've got male imagery when you're talking about IT, are people not going to consider that that's exactly where it is? And prime example, just Google IT services right now. The first female is probably 5 swipes down.
We'd like to take that.
Well, I can certainly contribute to it because even when I'm looking for imagery for my courses, I teach a VR and AR course, virtual reality, augmented reality. Even with that, then finding the imagery, I have to go hunting to find imagery of somebody who's not a white bloke. But in terms of recruitment,
Yeah, agreed at that point as well. You know, you think IT, you know, Bill Gates, Elon Musk. You know, I think at that higher level, you know, that level, we need to promote the female leaders in industry as well. But I have seen some organisations do some innovative stuff to promote that. I know some organisations have let schools come through their organisations of promoting IT. So you know, at that early age where there is an ability to influence, they've been able to, you know, both males and females to walk them through, show them what IT looks like, and really start getting them thinking about it and engaging with it. But yeah, there's a lot you can do to change perceptions, but I think those sort of things are things that could really help that perception of the market. And I think you're right, you know, promote female leaders within the IT world to make sure that it, you know, you Google and there is more of a diversity on that front as well.
Great. Who else has a question? Don't be shy. We've got time for a couple more.
It's pretty clear that there needs to be a cultural shift in a number of industries, not just IT, but IT in particular, right down to Australia. But what I'd like to know is what are the universities doing today to engage high schools to change that perception? So it's already clear that something needs to change, but what are you actually doing actively, and how many schools are you actually touching to change the perception to get more females in IT?
We do a lot with schools. Specifically in IT, possibly not. I would love to have one of my colleagues here who's just run a whole program for 100 odd school children on the South Bank, looking at entrepreneurial skills and putting those in. That adding, you know, you can add the IT into there through saying, well, how are we going to solve this SDG using IT? So we run various things with schools. Griffith has a very big relationship with the Logan schools, the Redlands and the lower SES schools to provide pathways for them coming into university. But I agree we could do a lot more. I've been working with colleagues to get IT into the business school. I think it's absolutely disgraceful that we are graduating business graduates with no IT background. So we're working very hard to put that into every single program that we do. And that is also part of our talks to the schools. ICT, do they have it?
we talk to a lot of the schools around the university, both the local schools but other schools as well. We run active outreach programs. We go out to them, they come into us. there's engagement days that we have. I believe we have one with Cisco as well, where some of the larger industry partners will sponsor a full day where we'll bring a whole heap of different schools into campus. Get them on campus, see what it's like to be on campus, run them through the classrooms, sit them in workshops, get them playing with some of the more fun aspects of IT. COVID has not been friendly. We had to shut down pretty much all of our school engagement over the last 12 to 12 months. We're only just starting to get that going again now because we haven't been able to do all of that. Yeah, I was saying to somebody earlier today, I'm in virtual reality. I can't put headsets on 45 children and move them around. It's not going to happen.
I'd like to challenge that though. So COVID has been an innovative way to live in
Oh yes, but the schools, I think the schools face the same sort of challenges that we did. So overnight, literally overnight, universities across the country had to flip all of their learning to online, and so did the schools. I think we were all just a little bit tied up with getting our own stuff sorted out before we could even think about reaching out to help others. But once that has settled, that's when we're starting to get the schools coming back going, okay, well, what have you learned? What can you share with us what worked? In many ways, there's an awful lot of schools that we can learn an awful lot from as well. There's some schools doing amazingly innovative work out there with the whole distance side of things. But yes, an active partnership, it's critical. We can't complain about not getting them through the university if we're not reaching out as well. But it's important for industry to be reaching out to school too. They can't be having it just come through from us because then it sounds like a marketing exercise. It needs to be coming through more generally too.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We have one last question.
I'm Holly from Digital. One of the things we see when we're speaking to female graduates and they're ready to take the leap into their career is that the confidence is lacking. So, they'll say, okay, so I'm 22, I want to have a child when I'm 28, which means that I'll have to have a year out of the workforce and I'm not sure I'll be able to compete and keep my skill set up to date. And there's a bit of a programmer culture in some areas, which I think some women kind of struggle with keeping up with. So, what do you guys have any ideas on how we can work on that confidence piece so that women feel that they can pursue those more technical, challenging career paths that can be very competitive?
So, from Cisco's perspective, we have a very flexible culture in the market. So for us, all of our women, whether they've just come in on a graduate program, etc., they still have the same ability as one of us that may have been with the organisation for 10 odd years, whereby that work from home policy is there. So it's really up to them, what that career path looks like. So. We've got people in the organisation right now that have had babies, they've chosen to come back to work after a few months, but are still nurturing their child at home and whilst doing their day work. So they've got a wider family that's helping support that side of it, but it's certainly around the culture that we have inside the organisation that really helps support those graduates coming in and letting them know that we've got that flexible workplace.
Can I just add a little bit there? I had someone the other day, we go through promotion rounds in the university, and one of the male academics said, "Oh, I suppose she's playing the baby card." Meaning she's going to say, "I haven't done as well as him because I've just had to come back from maternity leave." And my response to that was, why don't we penalise men for not taking paternity leave?
I went into academia from industry years ago when I had my children because I was working for a large consulting company that shall remain nameless, where the culture was that as soon as you were back, then you were available for projects, and projects meant going to different cities and all over the country. And I remember speaking to one of my female colleagues because I was, starting to show, and she had just come back from her maternity leave and was saying, "I'm just waiting for them to make me redundant because I've already said I won't travel, I'll only accept project work here in Brisbane." And she was literally waiting for them to make her redundant. At that point I said, "I'll go back and do my PhD now, thanks." I believe that the culture is changing. It is not changing everywhere, but here we have the example with Cisco saying we've got active support for women, and it has to extend to men as well. When I was in the position where my academic career was kicking off and I was not able to do all the kids stuff, and my husband was needing to take some hours off work, he was pulled up on it. HR said, oh, your leave thing is not looking good. I'm looking after my children. Oh, no, that's not okay. And so then somehow it then became my problem again to have to juggle everything. Now, these are organisational issues that have to change and are sort of like above my pay scale. But I believe it is changing. It's changing slowly.
Yeah, great question, and I think from a recruitment perspective, we do see, we engage with a lot of organisations out there. There's goals between how different organisations will approach it. I think some of the, just from my dialogue, some of the big four consultancies, for example, do quite well with it, and then I know they implement multiple policies to really help and improve that. I think, for example, making sure that as soon as you're employed, you've got the opportunity to get maternity leave, no disadvantages there. And then also, I know another example is they do have, goals to have, equality at the leadership level. So showing that there's no barriers to reaching those through things like maternity. So there's still a long way to go, but I know there are, some organisations are being faced with policy, but I think, there's probably more to be done there.
I think it's a really good question to end on, and that flexibility piece is something that it's not just large organisations, a lot of smaller organisations now are embracing, and even our organisation, we've had flexibility long before COVID hit, and we had staff who have been able to juggle their life and their career, whether that's through work from home programs, part-time work, flexible hours, being able to do some hours on the weekend rather than during work hours. And it really is that case of and it's not just to empower women to be in the workforce, but it's also an ability for us to change the way that we work going forward. And it does mean that we change that conversation around what work means for our society. And maybe from that we can start to change that perception that certain roles are predominantly male or female. Maybe we can say that it's just a job and we're still just going to get good people for those roles, and we're going to provide those good people with all of the tools that they need to be able to succeed in their career and have all the flexibility so that they can also have a life. And I think that's our challenge as business, academia, recruitment, all of you all have a role to play in that, and having that policy-based change within the workforce is, I think, where we're going to see the most fundamental shift going forward.
Thank you very much to our expert panel. Can we get one last round of applause? So we're just about to wrap up things down here. We're going to move upstairs shortly to get the party started. The elevator won't fit us all at once, so don't rush. We're going to be doing it in small segments, half a table at a time, that sort of thing. If you need the bathroom, again, it's just down there. Once we get upstairs, there's a couple of things to note. Alicia will be waiting up there for you. Remember, there are 3 awesome prizes for the Currumbin Wildlife Sanctuary fundraiser we're doing, so if you haven't got a raffle ticket, Alicia is up there ready to take your money. And but upstairs as well, if you don't want the last cocktail, if you're wanting more things, there is a cash bar available, so go hard, we'll get the party started, we'll have some fun. Again, today's about networking and meeting like-minded people and having a chat and growing your circle, so don't be shy, say hello to people, see where the conversation takes you, and let's have some fun. Thank you.